Hey Sarah,
Hey, Aaliyah, how's it
nice to
going?
see you. Going
So
good.
good to
Happy
see you.
Tuesday.
Yes.
Hey everybody, welcome in. Hey Anna, how are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Hey Erica,
Hey, good afternoon, everyone.
good afternoon. I'm gonna give folks about another couple minutes. Starting. Hey Yolanda. Hey Kate.
Hi.
Good to see all of you. Happy Tuesday.
Hello.
Hey Mark.
Hey, thanks for having this. Looking forward to it.
Thanks for joining. Gonna give folks just another minute to join. Jump in. Hey, Mark. Good to see you. Happy
Hello.
Tuesday. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining our June quarterly meeting. Super great to be with you all. Um, Minerva, who usually joins me, she is at our WIC briefing today. And so I'm going to handle our quarterly meeting. Super great to see you all. I'm going to add our agenda in the chat. Um, And for some new folks in the room, hello, my name is Aaliyah. I'm the Alliance's Hunger Free Communities Associate. So I'm helping with all things HFC, including our quarterly meeting today. Um, and as per usual, we'll just start with some brief intros. If you'll give us your name, where you're coming from, and if you'll add the name of your org to your Zoom name, that's also super helpful. And I'll start with just who is on my screen. I'll start with William, if you'll tell us who you are, where you're coming from.
Hello, everybody. My name is William Schuyler. This is the first of these meetings for me. I'm sitting in for Brian Perry of Hunger Free Alexandria here in Alexandria, Virginia. So I look forward to this and see again something new.
Yes, thanks for joining us. And then Sarah, you're next on my screen. Give us a quick intro.
Okay.
Yeah, hey guys, I'm Sarah Gonzalez. I work for the Hunger Solutions Institute at Auburn University. I run our food systems work, but we also work in SNAP incentive programs as well as hunger-free higher ed.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us. And Anna Grace, you're next for me.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anna Grace. I'm coming from Nashville, Tennessee with the Tennessee Justice Center.
The Tennessee Justice Center is one of our newest HFC partners, so we are super excited to have you all here today and to hear from you more later on. And Kate, you're next for me.
Gotta unmute there. Hi, everybody. I'm Kate Howe. I'm the executive director at Indie Hunger Network in Indianapolis.
Thank you. And Yolanda.
Hi, everybody. I'm Yolanda Gordon, and I work for Results.
So Yolanda is also on our Lived Experience Advisory Council, and we're very excited to hear from her a bit later on as well. And Sharon.
Hi everyone, I'm Sharon. I work for the Montgomery County Food Council. I work for our SNAP Reach team. I'm attending today on behalf of Anne Marie, so it's my first meeting. So nice to meet you all.
Yes, good to see you. Welcome again. Thanks for joining.
you.
And Lynette.
Hi there, Lynette Garcia Rivera, Feeding America. Happy to be in community today.
Thank you. And Mark.
Mark Willis with the Hall's Hunger Initiative. We're in Yellow Springs, Ohio, near Dayton. And thanks for having us.
Yes, thanks for joining.
And Mark Lynch with Indie Hunger Network.
Mark,
So many marks, right?
So many marks. This is good.
Like we get all the marks out of the way.
Yes.
Mark Lynch, Indie Hunger Network. I'm the director of advocacy.
Both the marks. Thank you both for joining us. And Erica.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Erica Debrick Kelly, and I'm Executive Director of Hunger Free Kansas, coming to you from Wichita, Kansas today. And while I'm not new to the Alliance, this is also my first meeting in this setting. So great to be with you all.
Great to see you. Thanks for joining us. And Jenny.
Hi, I'm Jenny Hall. I am on day 2 of being the CEO at Beyond Hunger, which is in the Chicago area, and previously was in similar kind of work, food insecurity work at Nourishing Hope, which is also based in Chicago. But happy to be here.
Thank you so much. And Jenna.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jenna Umbriak. I'm with Mana Food Center, also in Montgomery County, with our colleagues in the Food Council. I have not been to these meetings before. Mana has been involved with the Alliance for a while. I'm particularly interested in being here today because we're on the cusp of hiring our first full-time advocacy manager, who I presume will be the one representing us in this space, and I wanted to have some experience to pass along to them when they start next month.
Yes, amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining also. And Clara.
Hi, I'm Clara. I'm also in from Nashville with the Tennessee Justice Center. I'm the anti-hunger advocacy intern, so I'm just here to learn from you all and excited to be here.
Thanks so much for joining. And I see Alex next.
I'm Alex. I'm with Partners for Hunger Free Oregon. This is my first time on this call, but I'm familiar with the network for sure.
Amazing. I love all the newcomers. Thank you all for being here. And Elsa, I know you just joined. We were just doing some quick intros. If you wanted to introduce yourself, say where you're from.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I'm late. I had a meeting that ran over. But my name is Elsa. I use she, her pronouns, and I am from United Way of King County up in Seattle, Washington.
So we have a pretty jam-packed agenda today, and so I want to pass it over to our first speaker, Anna Grace, who's from the Tennessee Justice Center, and she's going to tell us a little bit about the work that they've been up to as one of our newest HFC members. So did you have slides? Should I make you a co-host?
Yeah, I do have slides.
Perfect. So I'm going to give you co-hosting permission, and whenever you're ready.
Perfect. Okay. All right. I know that I get 15 minutes here, so I'm gonna speak speedily, and just tell me to hush whenever you're ready to move on to the next.
And we can
Perfect. But my name is Anna Grace. I work at the Tennessee Justice Center, as I mentioned in my introduction. And so hopefully I'll just spend the next 15 minutes kind of telling you about our work broadly, and then more specifically our anti-hunger advocacy. So this is our team here. There are 6 of us. Well, actually, rest in peace. Geraldine, our King Nutrition Fellow, is going to medical school. So she's left us this past week. So now we're down to 5. But anyways, this is our fabulous team. Briefly today, we're going to talk about TJC and our service model, and then I went back and forth about how best to do this, speaking to an audience about work that you do that they're probably also doing. And so instead of kind of going program specific, I'm going to just talk about the ways that we advocate for the safety net programs in Tennessee. But TJC is a public interest law firm that has been around for about 28 years. And really, I think we're going on our 29th year now. But we work directly with individuals who are trying to access SNAP, Medicaid, WIC. We do direct casework, and then we use those experiences to provide education to our partners, and to basically do systemic change. Ultimately, if we're fixing the same issue for client after client, we know that that is an opportunity for administrative advocacy or legislative action to make the programs work better in Tennessee. So ultimately, our direct client services, like I mentioned, we work with SNAP, WIC, and Medicaid. We help individuals understand if they're eligible for these programs. Then we help them navigate the red tape that comes with these programs. And then oftentimes we are not necessarily helping with that initial application. We're helping with appeal decisions if a client was wrongfully terminated or denied from either SNAP or TennCare benefits. So this is the slide that we often use when talking about our work is if you need help with any of these programs, give TJC a call and we can either direct you to the partner organization that is better suited for this, but ultimately, these are all of the safety net programs that we provide direct casework support in order for families to access them in Tennessee. In addition to our direct casework, as I mentioned, we are often conducting administrative advocacy, legislative advocacy, and then, if necessary, lobbying and litigation. Ultimately, we would much rather resolve issues through administrative advocacy, because in a state like Tennessee, legislative advocacy and litigation are hard when we're talking about the safety net programs. But ultimately, when we identify systemic issues across our casework, that's when we will basically take it a step up. And so, for instance, we currently have a lawsuit against the Department of Human Services in Tennessee for mishandling the SNAP program as they transitioned this past year to a different, I'm missing the word, but like the technology that runs the program, the database or whatever it's called, like tens of thousands of families fell off the program. And so TJC filed a lawsuit that SNAP basically didn't adhere to the federal regulations and the administration of the program. But specific to the anti-hunger team, we have the same model of all of TJC and work directly with individuals to identify the ways in which the safety net programs work and don't work across the state. And so we provide education, we attend outreach events, and ultimately try to make systemic change to make the programs work better across Tennessee. So the first thing that I've touched on and provided pictures for are our various outreach events that we've attended and casework. And so here we have a client, and then the rest of the pictures are combinations of our anti-hunger team at outreach events where we talk directly with families to try to resolve some of their issues and also to understand how the programs work or don't work for them. We also rely really heavily on our partnerships. We've learned very quickly that sometimes TJC is not the best messenger for these things. And so we stay really in tune with other group organizations that are maybe not their sole focus is anti-hunger issues or the safety net programs, but they're working with families who are eligible for these programs and maybe enrolled in them. And so they're very privy to how they work or don't work. And so we run a working group or coalition for basically every single one of the safety net programs that we work with. Another thing TJC does really thoroughly is collect stories. And so, you know, as you all can answer, there are a lot of reasons to collect stories. Ultimately, we believe that our advocacy needs to be informed by the individuals that are experiencing these programs most with the most proximity. And also when we're advocating for these programs, those are the voices that are most impactful. And so depending on what the issue may be, we're always collecting general stories about how families are using or not using these programs and why or why not. For instance, some of you may know Tennessee participated in summer EBT in 2024, but did not opt into the program in 2025. And so we've been collecting stories from families this summer about basically, you know, what does it mean for their family to not have summer EBT, and does that escalate hunger that they experience in the summer? And so you can find lots of our stories on TJC's website. This is a campaign that we did for summer EBT to try to get it in 2025, but we were unsuccessful. And so this is a story map where you can hover over different parts of the state and see the stories that families from that area shared about what summer EBT means to them. The next thing that we spend a lot of time trying to drum up is press. And so over here on the left, you can see my supervisor Signe standing in front of the Tennessee State Capitol. And then you can see here, this is an example of an article that we did with the Wall Street Journal where we were contacted by press. They told us the people that, not the specific people, but the type of issue that they wanted to hear about, and we're able to connect them with our clients that have said they're interested in speaking to press to help elevate their voices. And then these are just a couple pictures to mention the administrative advocacy and lobbying that we do, both at the state and the federal level. For instance, we were in DC in May, got to see several of you from the Alliance to End Hunger, trying to protect SNAP and Medicaid. And then also here's a picture on the left where we're at our state representatives' offices talking to them about summer EBT and the importance it has for Tennessee families. Another thing that we do to advocate for these programs is create resources. Obviously, we know most days we're experts on all things safety net, but things change and that's not always the case. But we do a lot of breaking down how things look for families and creating resources for our partner organizations to then share with their families who are eligible for the safety net so that they can be informed and we can continue to build awareness. But that's about it. Hopefully that was a slight glimpse into our work. We have a small team, but we're mighty. And so our advocacy efforts really run the gambit, but I'll pause for questions and then just our contact information at the end, but hopefully that was within 15 minutes. I tried to go speedy.
No, it was perfect. Thanks so much. You guys, for such a small team, the amount of work that you all are doing is absolutely incredible. Were there any questions? I will say, I know you all have a briefing tomorrow. Are those open to the public? And maybe you could drop the registration link in the chat if anyone's interested.
Yes. Yeah. I can totally drop that in the chat. Yeah, that's part of our push right now to oppose the cuts to SNAP and Medicaid is that we have weekly briefings, hopefully so Tennessee partners have a centralized place to go to get the latest information. So
good to know.
But yeah, Jenna, ask your question and I'll work on getting that in the chat.
Yeah. And also on that note, the Alliance also has a SNAP action alert targeting the Senate with messages to propose or to reject proposals cutting and undermining SNAP. I'm going to put that toolkit in our chat as well. And so before I pass it off to Yolanda, Were there any last minute questions? Thank you so much, Anna.
I just had a quick question. Um, you mentioned storytelling. The map looked great. I'm just curious if you have any best practices or promising practices when it comes to collecting stories. I think we all try to do it in different ways. Do you have like a standard invitation that you make to anyone you're working on Snap applications for, or something like that that you find works really well?
So I wish that I had another member of our team here. Chris is the one that's in charge of all things story collection. They have a master's in anthropology and are very much a systems person and recognize the importance of like it's not just as simple as asking someone to share their story. And so we do have a process. And if you have questions, I'd be more than happy to put you in touch with Chris. And they can detail that more so than I feel like I can.
Great, thank you.
And then in the chat, William asks, what has been your most effective advocacy tool that you have created?
Oh goodness. Our most effective tool. I mean, I think what comes to mind is whether it's a partner or a client. I think what's most effective is finding someone else to message whatever our ask is. I think in a very red state, even though TJC advertises itself as bipartisan, we're oftentimes seen as very left. And as you can tell by this purple wall behind me, we try to be between the red and blue, but that doesn't really seem to happen, or that's at least not how we're perceived. And so I would think that our most effective advocacy tools is really just finding ways to like our opportunities for our partners and our clients to talk about the work that they do and their experience with the safety net programs. And ultimately that's what reaches people in power much more effectively than TJC just talking. And then Jenna, I guess Jenna and Elsa, will you all, I don't know if you can do it privately or you just have to send it in the chat, send me your emails so that I can be sure to connect you with Chris.
I can also help with that connection.
Yes.
Too.
Amazing.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna.
Thanks for having me.
And for the sake of time, I'm going to pass it over to Yolanda Gordon from Results. Yolanda, do you have slides? Should I make you a co-host? Okay, let me make you a co-host.
Yes, I have slides.
Perfect.
Good afternoon, everyone. As stated, my name is Yolanda Gordon, and I am the Senior Manager of the Results Fellowship Program and Advocacy at Results. So today I'm going to talk about these 6 things. I'm going to move pretty quick. So I'm going to talk about what Results is, what the fellowship is, which I'm going to let the fellows speak for themselves, what they do and what they learn in our alumni network. So Results is a movement of passionate, committed, everyday people. We believe poverty is not inevitable and that our voices have power. We use our voices to end poverty. And of course, we know that poverty cannot end as long as oppression exists. We are a 45-year-old organization, and we work on global and domestic policy. My job is the more fun job at Results, as I get to work with emerging leaders ages 20 to 45, give them skills training, and also give them a peek into policy development, and also just kind of really support them and help them understand how important their participation in this great experiment is when they are talking to members of Congress. So I'm going to play a video of some of our fellows talking.
I feel like I could talk about the fellowship forever. feel like I'm a part of something that's bigger than myself.
I just feel so much more confident as an advocate now.
You're able to come in and make an impact just by sharing your own insights, and your advocacy has value.
You gain so much from this experience.
Unmute myself. Fellows attend a bi-monthly fellowship training. We are a nonpartisan organization, so I present information in a way that is nonpartisan for them to understand the landscape, and also to understand how they can make an impact in Democratic plus Republican offices. I also help them to understand that even though your representative or your senator may be a Democrat, it does not mean that you are preaching to the choir, because we have seen that some of our Democratic representatives do support things like SNAP Choice, and we want to make sure that they understand the impact of their decisions. They also attend our monthly webinar, national webinar, which is with our entire network. They participate in lobby meetings, they lead lobby meetings, they participate in results groups, which we have groups around the country, from Alaska to Florida, and they also participate in potential leadership positions. Last month, we had an alumni of our fellowship program, Erin Carrillo, who is also one of our grassroots board members, testify on Capitol Hill about the impact of SNAP on him.
We may have lost Yolanda for a second. Just give her one more minute. I think she's coming back. The technology. Y'all know how it goes. Oh, okay. We may have lost her momentarily, but I'm sure she'll join back. I do believe that this fellowship is currently accepting applications. So we definitely want to share that with you all so that you can share it to your networks in case you have anybody who is interested in joining. I'm a congressional fellow from the Congressional Hunger Center, the Emerson Hunger Fellowship, and so I know that these programs are truly life-changing. I'm gonna give her one more minute, see if she pops back up. And then if she doesn't, I can pass it over to Lynette, who's gonna give us a SNAP update, which, oh my goodness, we know. Thanks y'all for your patience.
Aaliyah, this is William. Do you know how long the fellowships last?
I believe that this results fellowship is a year long.
Oh, it's a year long. Okay. Well, that's quite a program.
Yes, it's quite a program. And I know that they get so many applications, and Yolanda is like running this one herself. She is incredible. And all that information, I will have her share the application and more info on it to put in the follow-up email for you all to share out to your groups in case you have anybody who might be interested, or if you yourself are interested.
Thank you.
But since the technology may have failed her, We'll do a quick pivot over to our SNAP update, Lynette, if that's okay. And then if she joins again, then she can just pick up where she left off. So I'm going to make you a co-host.
Sounds good.
Good. Thank you all for the patience.
Can you see the screen?
Yes, you are
Yes. Okay, great. I'll dive right in. So again, my name is Lynette Garcia Rivera, and I'm a manager of congressional relations. I left government relations there, but congressional relations at Feeding America, which is a nationwide network of 200 plus food banks that feed more than 46 million people through food pantries, soup kitchen shelters, and other community-based agencies. I think I saw a food bank of ours in the earlier presentation. Um, but before diving into the exact details of what's going on with SNAP and the quote unquote big beautiful bill, I think it's important to ground ourselves with what's at stake and what does hunger look like in 2025. Although I'm sure many of you know this. I think Yolanda might be on. Should I continue?
Yeah, you can keep going, and then Yolanda can pick up where she left off. Hi, Yolanda. I'm sorry we lost you for a second. Are you back?
Yes, you would think being in Amazon headquarters, I would have a consistent
I know.
internet.
I'm gonna let Lynette do her SNAP update, and then we'll switch it right back to you.
All right, then. So yes, these are the Map the Meal Gap key findings. Last month, Feeding America released its 15th annual study, which is the only study that provides local estimates of food security and food cost for every county and congressional district. And this study builds on USDA's most recent report of national and state data, which showed that 47 million people, including 14 million children, experienced food insecurity in 2023, which is the highest in nearly a decade. And as you can imagine, this coupled with inflation, tariffs, higher grocery costs, and so much uncertainty and unrest is leading to higher demand at our food banks. And our food banks are already really stretched thin. They're at max capacity. We're working with fewer resources after the USDA cuts in April. So fewer resources, more demand, and potential impacts to SNAP would only increase to more dire situations. And I think it's important to note that for Feeding America, we serve everyone, so even those who are slightly over the federal poverty line. So as you can imagine, any changes to SNAP, we're going to see longer lines. And I won't go through all of this, but I just think it's important to think about the face of hunger and how it's changing. I heard from one of our Philadelphia food banks that typically, they were used to seeing more, single parent homes, and now they're seeing dual income, two kids, four, family, four-person family households going to the food banks. So the face of hunger is it could be changing, and I think it's important for members not just to know this, but the stories and who's behind these faces. And this is again the current state of play as the budget reconciliation process moves along um, in Congress. So now, without getting into the weeds of the bill, but happy to follow up, it's just that it's very fluid. There's now a House and the Senate version, but generally speaking, the proposals include several harmful provisions that would profoundly restructure SNAP as we know it and make unprecedented cuts in the billions to the program over the next 10 years through many mechanisms, but these are some of the biggest buckets that we're looking at. One being shifting benefit and admin costs to the states. Right now, those numbers are a little different in the House and the Senate, but essentially, it would require states to pay a portion of SNAP benefits for the first time in the program history based on payment error rate, which we know many factors contribute to this, including losing USDA admin, over the last few months. So, um, this and also increasing the state's share of administrative costs would be again, the first time in the program's history. And we just simply know that a lot of states will be unable to cover these expenses. And that's just going to lead to cuts either in benefits or just people getting kicked off or states pulling altogether from the program. Second, we're looking at increased work requirements and time limits on benefits. Uh, and for the first time ever, parents of school-age children 10 and over could be considered. Again, this is still fluid. They're still negotiating, um, but still, very just big change. Third, limiting USDA's ability to update benefit levels through the Thrifty Food Plan, which is the basis under which SNAP benefits are determined. Um, this not only impacts SNAP, it impacts TFAP, it impacts the Sunbug Summary BT benefits, it impacts SNAP, the NAP block grant to Puerto Rico. So again, very fundamental changes and more, right? We know that there are growing attacks on immigrants. They're removing access to SNAP for refugees and asylum seekers. LPR generally don't have access to this, but for refugees and asylum seekers, they're just being stripped out of benefits, eliminating the SNAP Ed program, limiting the use of energy assistance to certain households, and prohibiting deduction of internet costs. Just again, some of the proposals being floated around currently. And Feeding America estimates that the bill could take an average of 9.5 billion meals off the table for SNAP participants every year. And for reference, Feeding America, our network, distributed nearly 6 billion meals last year. So just to show that we cannot fill in the gap. Now, the legislative landscape, where the bill is now. Like I mentioned, the House passed the reconciliation package, which is the fancy term for the big, beautiful bill, on May 22nd. And the bill is now in the Senate, where they recently released their own version of the bill. While not identical, the Senate proposal includes harmful cuts that would worsen hunger for millions of people. House Republicans were promised by leadership that the final bill in the House votes would be moderated or, changed in the Senate, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So a lot, like I said, up in the air. The Senate Ag Committee that handles SNAP released their own bill text last Wednesday, with varying responses from all factions of Republicans. Some have expressed deep concerns over the cuts, some of the more moderate Republicans, while some of the more, like the Freedom Caucus, they want even further cuts. So we're keeping a really close eye to where they land, but it's looking pretty terrible currently. House Dems, we still think they play a key role. We need them to keep speaking out on the local economic impact. We need governors, state legislators to be speaking up more. Not just SNAP, but Medicaid, right? There's just so much in this bill to keep track of. And like I said, members have different priorities. So I saw earlier today Senator Hawley in Missouri. He's pushing concerns on the Medicaid cuts. There are a lot of members that are concerned over federal deduction for state and local taxes, so SALT. Others, like Rand Paul, are already saying no to the bill because the package includes a provision that would raise the debt ceiling by trillions of dollars. So again, it's just we're waiting to see where the Republicans land. After all, it is a partisan. The budget reconciliation process is a partisan exercise, and so they don't need any Democratic votes. But amongst them, they're falling kind of all over, and we're waiting to see where the dust settles. Um, and again, we're waiting for more members to hear from their governors, from state legislators, especially on the cost shift part, where we just know states will not be able to pick up the tab. And then finally, thinking about the legislative landscape, the other thing to consider I have here is, President Trump as a wild card. Initially, he was not on board with the House version, but later backed the Senate approach. And as we know, um, it's just really a wild card. So we'll see in the next few weeks where this lands. Looking ahead, they haven't given a specific timeline for the Senate, but they pledged to pass this by July 4th, to the president's desk. But as I mentioned, there are so many disagreements right now that it's hard to tell if that will be the case. The next steps, we still need the Senate parliamentarian to weigh in. So the bird bath, she already gave some unofficial guidance, which is why we saw the Senate release its own version. But we still need, the parliamentarian to look through, especially the SNAP provisions of the bill. Potential committee action, I doubt it at this point, because they do want this, they have this aggressive timeline, and a markup could only delay the process. Conference, I know that leadership is really looking against this because that would, again, delay the process. And they don't want as many changes because then they would have to go back to the House for another vote. And other factors to consider, I mentioned earlier the debt ceiling, there's appropriations, so potential government shutdown again in September. The Farm Bill, right? With all these cuts to SNAP, the Farm Bill coalition is in danger, and we simply don't know if a Farm Bill could pass at this point. And just in general, the general chaos and other pressing priorities in DC. Um, and the other thing I did not include is that with SNAP specifically, we're getting hit in so many directions. We could see stuff in appropriations, right? Um, there's also SNAP Choice came up earlier. We're seeing a lot of submitting their own waivers. So we're going to be hearing, from the admin side, from the state level side. It could happen in budget reconciliation and appropriations. So it's just all hands on deck at this point. And how Feeding America, how we're responding. One, keeping track of all the changes, putting out resources for our network, for members. We're meeting with all members, but especially with the Ag Committee folks, moderate Republicans. Again, they've already sounded the alarms. So we're meeting with them, trying to get them to communicate with their state legislatures or governors. We're trying to meet with the states that we know will be heavily impacted with freshmen. This is their first time. And really activating our network. We think it's powerful for members to hear directly from the network that, they're the ones dealing directly with the influx of the growing lines at our food banks. Um, you might have seen Dems have held shadow hearings, field hearings. We're also very actively participating in that and just preparing for what could be a long road ahead. But with that, I'll pause for questions. And I'm also happy to share any of our resources. We put out together state by state fact sheets that highlight how detrimental this cost shift could be. So happy to share any of this. And with that, I'll pause right there.
So I have a
Lynette,
question.
oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
This is William Schuyler, so thank you for that. That was very helpful. One of the things, though, when I've looked at this, is that I think could happen first, and I'm just wondering if you guys have looked at this, which is a way the state could minimize the cut is to reduce this error rate, right? And then the lower the error rate, the more the money they would continue to keep. That would happen before the cuts themselves would occur. And I'm just wondering if you've looked at who is the population that's going to get, who gets categorized as an error in this process, right? And then how do we look at that population first?
That's a really good point. I don't know if we have that, much detail in the weeds of who would be impacted necessarily. I know we have some general figures, for instance, on the time limits of who gets impacted by that, but with the cost shift, not necessarily. And there was a second, sorry, first point that you made, and I'm losing my track on that.
No,
Oh,
it's just that here's the like
yes,
how do you
it
get
came back to
categorized
me.
as an error, right?
Yeah. I can share, some of our resources because obviously there's a big difference between like the fraud and error rates and also concerns around, I think looking at the Senate bill, it looks like it would some of this would go into effect in 26. So they be using error rates from 23? So yeah, we're still dealing with those questions with committee. So all that to say is we still don't know. Sorry, I wish I had a better answer, but
Yeah.
that's something we just flagged for the committee yesterday. Like, which error rates are we going to be using?
Thank you.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering about this shift to the state. Ohio has been not very friendly toward paying these costs. What happens if a state doesn't pay? We're talking about, I think, 500 million more for Ohio. We don't have it budgeted. I don't know that they'll want to. So what happens if the state doesn't pay that?
All we know is that they can either cut people, and that way it's on the states. So the Republicans here are saying it's not a cut because they're not the ones ultimately cutting, but it would either be, cutting people or cutting the program or pulling out altogether. We don't know, which is why we're really pushing for these senators to reach out to their governors and state legislators now, because based on what we're hearing, I don't think that they know the answer either.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Lynette. Did we have any other questions before I pass it back to Yolanda to finish up her presentation? Yeah, things are changing by the week, so it's great to have these updates when we can get them. So thank you so much for that. And Yolanda, I'm going to remake you the co-host. I believe you're at slide number 4, or yeah, 7.
Okay, I'm gonna work with a second screen, so hopefully this works. I don't even know what number slot this is, but it's okay. I can manage. So, our fellows, they do learn strategic organizing, especially for their communities. A lot of our fellows are in rural communities, in the South, so they are learning to strategically organize with their friends, their families, their churches, definitely talking to the faith-based community. Um, I do help them understand the federal budget process, and how the committees and subcommittees work. We work on public speaking and storytelling, definitely grassroots lobbying. They will be coming to DC next month, and they will be on Capitol Hill for an entire day talking to their members of Congress about SNAP and about Medicaid, and global nutrition. We also engage with the media. So they don't just engage with print media, they also create their own blogs. They have Substacks, they have, they utilize social media. Some of them participate in podcasts in their local areas to get the information out. I love history, and I am also big on teaching the historical context of policy and policies and their effects, and connecting the dots between where we were and where we are now, and how policies that we think happened long ago are still affecting how government works today. And I also help them recognize disinformation and how to educate others on recognizing disinformation. Um, I don't know if I talked about program growth, but we do have sister fellowships in Canada and Australia. Canada is in year 4, Australia is in year 3. So our alumni network is 804 strong. 501 are currently connected through our quarterly alumni newsletter. These are folks that take actions once they get an email or an email blast from the organization. So they are still active in some capacity. Many of them work in public policy. We have several alumni who work on Capitol Hill, who are staffers. Since 2020, I was hired in 2019, but since 2020, I have recruited over 300 fellows, and 260 of them are still involved in some capacity. Our fellowship retention rate in our network is 57%. And with that, we just started a new Charlotte, North Carolina group, which is ran by an alumni of the fellowship. 61.84% of our group leaders or co-leads are alumni of the program. We have 8 regional coordinators which support our group leaders around the country. We have a grassroots board, which is 4 members of our grassroots that they run for these seats every 3 years. We have 2 current alumni of the fellowship who are currently on the board, and we also have 1 that rotated off of the board. Our alumni are also creating their own fellowships at the local level. We have one of climate change, and it's in its 2nd year. We have one global health, which is in its 4th year. And then we have a fellow in Massachusetts who's starting her own mental health advocacy fellowship, and it will start in the fall of this year. And again, we continue to partner with the International Fellowship in Australia and Canada, and I run our International Fellowship Alumni Network. I have to remember that my mouse is over here. So I'm going to open it up for questions because, and just let you know, humor is my trauma response. So you will see the things I say, they trauma response. So
You did actually have a couple questions.
yes.
1, can you clarify the length of the fellowship? And 2, are you currently accepting applications?
Good question. So the length is 11 months. Hopefully starting in 2027, it will be a 2-year program following the congressional cycle. But for right now, we are an 11-month program. All I ask of fellows is their time. I have crafted the fellowship. I started as a results volunteer in 2012. I am a single mom of 3 kids. At that time, all 3 of my kids were school age. I was attending college and working part-time, and 2 of my kids are also on the autism spectrum. So I know how to juggle time and manage time. So I've really crafted the fellowship to help the fellows understand that you don't have to be all in doing this every day, all day to make an impact. So I asked them to dedicate 5 to 7 hours a month, which is basically our 2 monthly webinars together for training. We have our national webinar, which is an hour and a half, 1 Saturday a month, and then to participate in their local groups. And then beyond that, if they go above and beyond, then, you know, they can choose their own adventure. We are currently accepting applications. Application process opened up in February, and it will officially close on Halloween. The program is very popular this year. Of course, I call it the Trump bump because we started getting applications very soon after inauguration, or interest very soon after the inauguration. And lately, we've been getting a lot of young adults with disabilities because I like for the fellowship to look like America. I also have a background as an occupational therapy practitioner. So I really opened it up for everyone to join. And we're getting a lot of young adults who are wanting to learn how to advocate for Medicaid. So that is a testament to what is going on in America. Last year, I had 1,200 applications come in for 60 seats. And this year so far, I am up to 700 applications for 50 seats. So it is rigorous. It is a lot. I'm the only person that runs the fellowship, so I do a lot of different things, including reviewing the applications, doing the interviews, supporting the current class, and supporting our alumni network. And all in all, I put all my heart and soul into the program so that folks learn what I wish I knew in my 20s. So, and I like to have fun, so it's always fun.
And then where can folks find the application?
So you can go to our website. It is results.org/fellowship. There is an application guide there, but there is also a link to the application. I do review applications weekly. I read every personal statement. I read every application, to be honest. And I encourage folks of all walks of life to apply. I'm a little murky when it comes to the age limit. I don't accept anyone under 20, but when it comes to over 45, I'm like, if you want to be here, then fine. Everyone is an emerging leader in some capacity. Once I start getting applications, I start interviews in August. And one of the beautiful things is that if an application comes in from one of our partner organizations, they're automatically accepted. So they don't even have to go through the interview process as long as they flag that they are from one of our partner organizations, like if they're connected to the Alliance to End Hunger, or if they're connected to Feeding America, or if they're connected to the Congressional Hunger Center, they're automatically accepted.
Well, thank you so much. Were there any other questions for Yolanda? Or for any of our three speakers? Right. Well, thank you all so much for joining the meeting today. Oh, I love this. The flowers too. This was really great. Thank you so much for joining. For the newcomers, we hope you'll come again. I will be sending a follow-up email with all of the resources we talked about today. That'll be a lengthy one, but I'm excited to get all that information out. And with that, I will see you all next time. I believe our next one will be our September meeting. And you'll get emails from me about that in the future. So have a great rest of your week. Have a great Tuesday. I'll see y'all soon. Thank you to our speakers. Thanks to Anna and Lynette and Yolanda. Thank you guys so much. See y'all.